tell us a little bit about some of these books. It looks like you have one on the tiger's bench. I wanted to ask you about the wooden dummy. You have one with the tiger claw with the wooden dummy. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Sifu?
So let me get my dates straight here, right? So Kung Fu in a Minute, my assistant's going to help me out here. So Kung Fu in a Minute was started in 2018. So I said, Kung Fu in a Minute. I want to call it Kung Fu in a Minute because you know what? Everybody has a minute. You got a minute to watch me. You got a minute to converse. You may get something out of it. Let's try it. So Kung Fu in a Minute. We started to do some online platforms for videos with Patreon and Udemy. And I would take a section of something I was teaching my students and say, look, you guys as Kung Fu people are responsible to make the crossover between form and function. Because if you want to, you can do that, right? Because a lot of people make fun of Kung Fu saying it's non-applicable. And as I said before, when we were talking about it, growing up in Chinatown, growing up in Jow Pai, man, we had to fight, okay? Sifu did not promote you unless you knew how to handle yourself. You may not be the best fighter, but you knew how to fight. You may not be the best form exponent, but you could do a form. So form and function are the yin and yang of one another. It's the right and the left of one another, you know? So I said, how am I going to do this? So, okay, I'm going to take a sliver of a set and I'm going to show you how you use it. And we did this for a while and we have quite a following for years. Yes, for many years, quite a following on Patreon. I think maybe 80 different countries throughout the world.
Wow.
You know, like checking in periodically and learning. And then what put a stop to it was Corona and COVID. Oh my God. Yeah. So everything shut down. And I don't know how it was for you guys, but here in New York City, it was like lockdown. And I said, you know what? Excuse my language, you motherfuckers. I'm not locking down. So, you know, you can see the school here, there's windows all around. Right? Mm-hmm. So I plastered up the windows, and we were literally doing class by candlelight. Okay. Wow. And then I said, yeah, or whoever wanted to come, you know, it was maybe 4 or 5 people. And I was holding on to the school by tooth and nail. And then I said, well, you know what? Okay, we're doing that at night. What am I going to do during the day? And I said, you know, you're writing blogs. Why not extend the blogs into books?
Awesome.
You know, and then, yeah, okay. And I said, hey, Sifu, yeah, I'm gonna write a book. And he's like, okay, you want to write a book? What are you going to write on? I'm saying, oh, I'm just going to pick a form and do it. You know? And he said, well, why don't you use the 5-element form that was taught by Grandmaster Paul Eng, who is also a student of Wang Muntoi, who is the teacher of Wai Hong, and Wang Muntoi, who brought Fu Jiao to New York City and had his 7 disciples. So Paul Eng, you know, I'm like, yeah, let's do that, you know, test the waters. So we did that, and wham, it was a hit, and it sold out. And to this day, I still don't have a copy for myself.
Oh, no. Are you guys going to run that again, do you think, Sifu?
I think we're going to do another reprint of it. But I'm being told you can get it on Amazon. So Amazon will print on demand for you. So we did that, right? And then it's like, okay, let's do one on the crane. And we did on the crane. And then we did one on the tiger. And then I said, no, you know, I really want to do a Fu Jiao book. All right. So we did 3 books, bam, bam, bam. And I said, let's do one and we'll call it Principles of the Tiger, which today I think is one of the best sellers that we have. Right. And it basically covers the tiger claw form and different aspects of training with the tiger claw and this dynamic tension and breathing and so on and so on. And it's been a huge seller. And I think I have like one hanging around in the school somewhere. You know what? I'm going to send you, remind me to send a copy to the young men. So later, send me your mailing addresses, right?
Oh, he'd be honored. Thank you, Sifu.
Yeah, totally. You guys, share the love, as they say, right? So we started cooking on that. And, I got into writing. I don't have a literary degree, but I got into writing, and I was starting to bang out books one after another. And we have about 16 going on 17, 18 books. Some in small format.
That's fantastic.
Some in huge format. One of the other very well good sellers is Supdok Sao, 10 essential techniques of the tiger, which cover the 10 core movements that you need to master to try to navigate through from going from the Hung system into the Tiger Claw system. So I thought that was really unique. So what I did, we put together 10 separate forms that encapsulate each movement. So it's not just one movement, right? So in Wing Chun, you have, Yat Jicha, you have your sun punch, right? Your vertical punch. So we have that, we call it Ba Fan Jin Chui, right? And so there's a form for Ba Fan Jin Chui, there's a form for Po Pai Sao, there's a form for Sheng Dan Hak Fu, there's a form for Tiger Tail Kick, a form for Swinging Punch, so on and so on. And then applications directly derived from the form after each form chapter. So it's about a 300 and change book. It's like that. It's 72 ounce thick steak, right? So I said to myself, you know what? The way I can pay homage and honor to my teacher, Master Tak Wah Eng, is to do this. To encapsulate the knowledge that he has given me in these books for future generations, not only just for my students, but for anyone that's interested in Kung Fu in general. And then they'll be interested in doing more with the Tiger Claw. And so you were asking about the Wooden Man. So, which I'm actually working on another Wooden Man book right now as we speak. I approached Sifu and I said, you know what? The Wooden Man is so popular, right? But we don't have a Wooden Man set per se. So I said, Sifu, he's a Kung Fu genius. This guy, anything he touches comes to life. And I said, Sifu, let's do something on the Zhong. He has a Zhong, I have a Zhong. He said, yeah, but I don't want to use anybody else's movement. I'm gonna do strictly Fu Jiao Zhong. I said, yeah,
perfect.
That's exactly what I want in Fu Jiao Zhong, right?
Perfect.
So, I would go over to his place and we'd hammer out, all these movements and say, I want to use this movement, that movement, these quintessential Tiger Claw techniques on a Wing Chun Zhong, right? So it's short-handed and make it conform. And then this is what I really love about my Sifu, his ability to take the standard and unstandardize it and make it work, right? And he made these sets personally for me. So I love him. He's amazing. Everything that he makes and everything that I publish and put out for the public has been constructed specifically and personally for me, not for anybody else.
Wow.
So it's my own system within a system. It's strictly for Paul, right? So we made this Wooden Man. Nobody else has it. It's strictly for us. There's like nine different sets inside the master set, with an opening and a closing, and it's amazing. And that book came out and it's available on Amazon. I have copies. My good friends at Plum Publications out in California, Sifu Ted and Debbie, they have it. They're selling it. Sorry, say again? Yeah, kungfuinaminute.com. Yes, sir. Got to plug my own thing. I'm not a good salesman. Okay, I'm just a kung fu crazy guy. Okay, I'm not a good salesman. So So after we did that and we did a few other books, I can run down the list later. I said, hey, Sifu, I have over here, can you see it? It's dark, right? I have
I see it.
A Qing Zhong, one of the movable arm Zhongs, the balance dummy. And I said, we did the shorthand stuff. Let's do the longer hand stuff. Nah, I don't want to do it. Nah, I don't want to do it. So I'm poking him and prodding him for over a year. And I said, one day he comes in, I give him his lunch and his tea, and he sits down. And I just rolled the dummy out because it's rolling, right? I rolled it out and I started doing stuff that I had like come up with. He's like, yeah, I like that. Okay, let's go. And it's very spontaneous. When I work with Sifu, it's spontaneous. We don't like to do dry, beat up old stuff. We like to make things fresh. And his thing is like, look, if you can afford fresh food, you're going to make fresh food. You're not going to eat leftovers. So I don't want to eat no leftovers. So I'm fooling around doing stuff on it. He's like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. And then within a few weeks, not even 2 months, in a few weeks, we construct a whole different wooden man set based on a whole different set of tiger claw techniques. So the pictures are shot, the layout is done, all the applications is done. I just need to find time to like scratch out all the writing. So that's another advanced level wooden man. Working on a bunch of other stuff. Weapons, the new series just came out. Ancient Weapons of Kung Fu. The first book is on the Kung Fu fighting bench. Tiger Head.
Saw that.
Yeah.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
So that's a really awesome book. We had a lot of fun doing that. Something on the monk spade, something on double sabers, going to do something on the double hand straight sword, a tiger fork, a whole weapon stuff, a whole new category. And then we might do some iron palm. Doing that because we're pretty famous for that. Like Grandmaster Wai Hong, back in the day in the 70s, trained all his top instructors on iron palm technique. And every young man there that passed through his hands could break several bricks, with no trouble. I mean, you guys like 2, 3, 4, like what's going on here? And I can remember being in my mid-20s and begging Sifu, like, please, Tisajang, train me, do the Tisajang. You don't want to do that. You don't want to mess up your hands. I'm like, no, I want to mess up my hands. So we did that and spent many years doing that and got really into it. And, the only way to test your iron palm is to break, right? Because you don't want to hit your classmates. You don't want to hit your students.
Right.
So, I remember we were in another location in Chinatown at that time. And one of the windowsills of our building was full of broken bricks that I had broke on a daily basis. And he made a joke. He's like, those are your trophies. And then because the relationship that you have with your Sifu is incredibly intimate, and this is why you call him Sifu, Fu Chen Fu, like Fu for father, not Sifu technician, like a master of a technique, but Sifu like father teacher. And he's sitting there and I'm my hand's itchy and I'm breaking bricks. And he's like, you better stop because you're going to break your hand after a while, because you get that itchy trigger finger. You just want to like slam stuff. And then I put it away for a long time. And just recently, one of my students was like, Sifu, well, why don't you do some iron palm again? I'm like, all right, if you guys really want to do it. So broke out the sandbags, broke out the cinder blocks, broke out the bricks. And you got to get like the real old school building brick to break, the real clay one with the core inside, not the extruded stuff that you find in in Home Depot. You can't break those. Those are chemical bricks. But the really hard ones, not the ones you get in China. It's like, oh my God, I see these guys posting stuff on YouTube and WeChat, and they're like breaking 10 bricks, and you know that they're not real. They're just, it's powder. It's powder. It's powder. You break one brick with a punch or a knife hand, you got a pretty strong hand. You break 2 or 3, your hand is good. You know, you break 2 of those, I can have a little girl do that. It's not a problem. So again, coming back to the standard thing, you know, the standard that we grew up with, and I still try to maintain, was and is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
And a punch, you got to have a strong punch. You got to have a strong kick. You got to have a good stance. You got to have a good bridge hand. You got to be able to do some really solid basics, because that's what's going to get you through. And I don't care what the art form is. I don't care if it's internal, it's external, it's northern, it's southern. I don't care what you say. Basics are everything, because you fall upon your basics. You know, you want to do, you know, tan dao, bong sao, lap sao. You got to do that. You don't know your 8 palm changes. You can't walk the circle. You don't talk. Don't talk.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do.
Yep.
So this is what they really don't understand. When I usually use this old phrase, lin kun but lin gong do lo ya chun hong. You training in the forms, but you didn't train your basics and your basic physical training, punch, kick, and so on. In the end, you have nothing. You just have a flowery form. You have nothing. You got to be able to deliver the package. You got to make this. Doesn't matter if it's a palm strike or it's a punch or a claw. If you can't do what your art claims that you should be able to do, you're doing a disservice to the art. And unfortunately, there's a lot of teachers out there now, I think, that teach for a living, as I do, but I don't teach for a living. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I teach for the passion and the love of the art. And I kind of demand, from my students that I don't care if you're a casual student or a really, you know, devout disciple, you need to show me that you can do it. And I think coming back full circle to what we were saying in the beginning, that's the imprint that was left upon me by training with my teachers and Grandmaster Wai Hong. His standards are really, really high. That you got to hit that mark. You got to hit that mark. If you don't hit that mark, you don't qualify. And if you don't qualify, no, you can't teach, you can't talk, you can't represent. So here I am representing my teacher, my grandmaster, and the chosen system that I've wanted to follow. And it is a must for me to bring the best that I can forward in myself first, and then in my students. And if I don't do that, I won't put it out there. I don't want to show. I'd rather just say and do nothing unless it's the best that I can produce at that point in time. And the challenge comes to go beyond yourself on a daily basis. And this is what who has like taught me, like, you know, you may be good, but you can do better. Yeah. I joke with my little one, you know, the little students. I said, what's better than good? And they're like, gooder. What's better than gooder? Goodest. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going, because look, you know, I'm reaching the next level, the next beginning. I haven't begun to practice yet. This is my feeling. You know, you say, well, you've been practicing for 45, you know, plus years. You know, a lot of people ask me, so, well, when are you going to retire? When are you going to stop? I'm like, never.
Yeah.
Why would I stop? Retire? Retire from what? Retire from the best thing ever? See, you don't get it. And that's why I said to you, like, nobody understands you guys.
Yeah.
That's so true. So true. That kind of dedication. is that other level that you were talking about. It's like this, they'll throw dirt in my face the day I stop.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I'm not ready to deal with that. And I'm not doing this for anybody else. And I really don't care what anybody else thinks. So there's going to be people that love you. Yeah. There's going to be people that despise you. But you don't do it for that. You do it for yourself, and you do it for your art. And that's that discipline and devotion that you guys have, because you don't have to do this, but you do it because you love the art of Kung Fu and you want to make everybody understand why. And you might touch somebody's heart and open them up. And then you're inadvertently spurring the next generation. When we're no longer here, they'll look back and they'll say, Kung Fu Conversations made me get into Kung Fu. And that particular podcast with that particular, teacher, spurred me to go do this. And it changed my life completely. Imagine your life now without doing Kung Fu. Where would you be? I can't even fathom it. And it's been such a journey from, a young kid to now, and the journey hasn't ended. It's just starting. I'm only now able to catch what my Sifu's teaching me. It's so funny. You thought you knew, and then you're doing the same. It's like the move doesn't change, right? The form doesn't change. You change. And then you look back at that same move that you did. You're going to do Siunim Tao, you're going to do Chamkyu, and you go, this feels so different than it did 10 years ago.
100%.
It's so different
100%.
10 years from now. Imagine. And you never stop mastering yourself. And the art is teaching you. You don't teach the art is teaching you. And I feel that's so cool. Like, it's out of my hands. I'm just a conduit from the past generation to the future generations. They don't even look at me. I'm just passing on information. You guys got to make something out of it, So I think it's amazing.
That being said, you go on. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about the system. Could you sort of give us an outline of the system, maybe the things that are in it, and kind of where one would start, and could you sort of walk through some of that with us?
Like I said before, the basic training is pretty rigorous. Top mile, sitting in a horse stance, countless hardcore punching drills, moving through stances and footwork, basic techniques that you learn. And then we were almost beholden to, as I said before, to master the Hung system first.
Right.
The first form I ever learned in total was Gongji Fuk Fu, Taming Tiger Fist. And we literally spent 3 years only doing that form.
That's awesome. I think that's the way it should be. That's awesome. I love it.
But imagine now trying to teach like that. You would not make it. As a commercial school, people would balk at you. That's a 5-minute form. No one's going to do a 5-minute form. Okay, so just to give you a little background. So when I used to do Wing Chun, with a well-known Wing Chun Sifu, we would do Siunim Tao, and he would want you to do Siunim Tao for 1 hour straight.
Yeah.
And then when you mastered it 1 hour slow, then you'd have to do it on one leg.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe some people do that now. I don't think so. No one has the perseverance to do that. They're, especially if you have rent to pay, they're going to say, hey, Sifu, teach me something fast that I can use now. But that was the way we grew up. So you had to go through Gongji Fuk Fu, and then you had to do Fu Hok Sen Ying. You had to do Tiger Crane Double Shadow. That's another 3 years. So now you're up to 6 years. No weapon. Okay, no weapon. So you're talking like early 80s. There's no martial arts supply stores. There was one in New Jersey called Dolan Sports that you had to order stuff, through UPS, but they sold nunchucks, right? And then, and then there was Batley Tat on Canal Street. And you'd have to, go there and buy the stuff and bring it back. And then, so when you wanted to learn staff form, what did you do? You went to the hardware store and you cut a wooden dowel.
Yep.
And that was your staff, So very stark knuckle push-ups, fingertip push-ups, calisthenics, stretching for an hour, until you got to that point that Sifu felt you were ready to learn some Fujiao forms. And then again, basic drills. Black Tiger raises the head. Ba Wong Ging Zhao, the evil lord makes the toast. Repeating basic movements again and again and again. And the Fujiao system, as I said before, is simple. And do not take the word simple in the wrong connotation. It is simple and direct in its effectiveness. There is little flowery movement involved because the tiger basically wants to catch you and devour you. So you're not spending time learning intricate, hand techniques that may avail to nothing. Right. So the old adage, flowery fists and flowery kicks, or however they say it, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist at all. You want to master that one jiao, that one movement. But from that one movement, a myriad of movements come. So we have the basic tiger claw forms, Fujiao Yatlo, Yilo, Samlo, Seilo, like first, second, third, fourth form, that all encompass the 18 tiger claw techniques, Sapa Jiao, which is at the heart of the system. So we have Sapa Jiao, Sapa Jiang. The claw can be converted to the palm can be converted to the claw. And these are the hallmark techniques of the Black Tiger system. And you would only get to learn these techniques one by one. So there's a tradition, because the August Moon Festival is said to be the birth of our system. And it was used as the founders to spur the revolt against the Qing. So, on August Moon, you get a moon cake, right? Inside the moon cake is a fermented egg. But what they would do is the rebels would put a message inside. And, Fan Cheng Fuk Ming, right? We're going to rebel on this day and this time, and that along. So the August moon is very special to us. And then at that time, the Grand Master would pass along one of these particular techniques. And, it was done in secret. And it took years to learn all these movements. And you had to be tested. So here you go. Why did you have to go through the entire Hung system before you learn Fujiao? One, it was a prerequisite in setting the groundwork. Two, it was a test. Because if you're going to stay a decade to learn that, then we're going to know you. We're going to get to learn you. We're going to see what your personality is, what your character is, and so on. And then you were brought into the system of Fujiao, and you learned the first form, crossing over. And then it's very selective. It's not taught in mass. And even today, I don't teach it in mass. I only have a handful of students that actually practice full-on Black Tiger Claw with me. Most of them, they learn smaller sets that are related, home system sets. But as I said in the beginning of the podcast, the interview, we are a rare system. And even though Grandmaster opened it to the public, it's not open. Not every
right.
learn.
Yeah.
So this is a two-edged sword. One way it's good because you're keeping the system close to the chest, right? You're not just letting anybody learn. Secondly, it's not good because you're holding back and you don't want the next generation to lose. What if you never encounter a student that's good enough to learn because you held it back?
Yeah.
So we don't know how many secrets have been lost over the generations, regardless of the system, because the student either didn't want to give up, his rice bowl, right? That's that's the rice bowl, right?
Yes, sir.
He was fearful that the students might rebel and fight against him. So you have all these old ideas that hurt systems going forward. And I think it's up to us as this modern generation to be a little bit more forward thinking, but not to the point that you're just selling the system either.
Right. Well said. Well said.
I handpick my inner disciples, and most of them have been with me for decades. I have students that are with me 20 plus years, and they're not professional Kung Fu teachers. They're just regular people, but they're devoted to me. They're devoted to the school. They're devoted to our system, and they still train the way I train with my teacher all the time. So coming back to the Fujao, it's a melding of the mind, the body, and the spirit through those fundamental tiger claw ripping, tearing, gouging techniques in that amazing form that we have that lets you transcend your mind and body and become one with that technique. And it's unless you experience it firsthand, explaining it falls completely flat. It's like one of you guys trying to express to me, how do you feel when you practice your particular art form? Well, you feel like this, you feel like that, you do this, you do that. But unless you really do it, you don't really know. And with our arts, you have to be next to the guy. Particularly the systems that you guys study. Wing Chun, you got to touch him. If you don't touch the guy,
that's right.
You don't feel that. You don't feel the king. It's not there. Same thing with Bakwa. Same thing with Xing Yi. And Bakwa and Xing Yi is cool because they fight. It's geared towards fighting. It's not this flowery, exhibition art form. And Fujao is not about exhibition. I can demonstrate the form for you, but the real end product of it is I'm going to deliver the strike. I'm going to make the hit. I'm going to make the strike. And that's really what it's all about. So you can see the framework, the mindset of the founders. They truly wanted to train people to fight, to overthrow the Qing. And that is at the core of that fighting tiger movement. And if you don't have that, you're not really doing Fujao. You're just, it's a paper tiger, as they say. There's nothing there. And we have a saying, when you put the tiger's claw out and you bring it back, it has to come back with blood. So what does that mean? That means if you want me to show you my technique, I have to do the job. And you don't want me to do that. So it's not about exhibition. It's like you watching a Wing Chun form. I'm sorry, it's not interesting.
No, it's not.
To the regular person. For you, for me, I'll watch it and go, ooh. For them to go, what? What am I supposed to see? You're not supposed to see anything. You know what? Because you're not inclined to see anything. You're not of that mindset. But for you and me, we'll go, oh, wow, you see that? You see what he did? Oh, this is so cool, and so on and so on. Same thing if you watch a Fujao form, you say, wow, I see the tiger coming alive. That's what I remember when I watching my Sifu or watching Grandmaster. I was like, wow, I see that dynamic power. So when we talk about dynamic power, when you're doing a Fu Jiao and you're doing all those, claw manipulations, you're moving the internal energy with your mind from your dantian throughout the entire body, and it emanates throughout, and you're really spiraling that energy around that body and then able to bring it out and project it through your movement. I'm not saying project it like you can push the guy without touching him. We're not talking about that. We have to make contact. But when we make contact, it's explosive. It's internal and external power combined together through the will of the mind. And this is what everybody doesn't understand. As you begin very external, but as you transcend through the system, becomes more and more and more internal until the two are so intermingled together, there's no separation between internal and external. And every time you do a technique, you're using your qi, you're making that, tukking, that fakking, it's coming out. It's dynamic in every movement, and there's no lag. It's a continuity throughout the entire form when you practice it. And I think it's very unique in that aspect of the blending of the internal and external force. So you have Wai Gong and Nei Gong mixing together. There's no separation. And I think this is the highest level that every system strives to get to. And they have their own way. But I still have to say, I think even those original, like let's talk about Tai Chi, right? Those original Tai Chi adepts, those masters, did not start soft. They started hard.
Yeah.
It's like age, you're a teenager, right? You're not going to go soft. You're going to go hard. And you go hard. And then as you mentally mature, you physically mature and mellow and become more. But the younger person can't see that you're more. They don't understand that mellowness because they haven't approached that level of mentality and maturity yet. So my Fu Jiao practice is different than it was 35 years ago.
Right.
I would have used more physical, muscular force, which is part of it, but is not all of it. And then as you mature and you understand the concept of qi and moving your mind and your qi, which are together, they're one. And the only way to get it is to practice it in that way. And a lot of people don't know how to practice that because they've never become nothing. I think you need to become nothing. You need to become empty in order to become full. You need to completely relinquish everything that you think you are and everything that you think you have learned in order for you to fully absorb what is being taught by the form. Because within the form is the real master. And the real master in our form is the tiger. And if you want to learn the tiger, you can't be you. You have to humble yourself in front of the knowledge. And it doesn't matter how long you've been training. So now that's what I do now is I strive my best to humble myself in front of the knowledge and not forget that this form does not belong to me. It belongs to that image of the tiger. And let me see how much I can absorb of that in every single fiber and cell of my body. And that's why I said to you before, like Sifu would say, see, you're not there anymore. You're there, but you're not you. You're that thing. You're that movement that you're doing at that moment in time. And when you capture that, I think you truly capture the essence of what you're practicing. And that transcends the fighting aspect, the health aspect, everything, it becomes more spiritual in a sense. And that's something that you can't sell. That's something that you can't quantify. That's something that you can't really even teach or pass on. The individual student has to be able to observe the Sifu in this sense, doing Fujiao, and be able to attune themselves to that vibrational energy. I don't want to get all like sounding all airy-fairy or anything, but if you don't click, you're not going to get it. So we have a term that we say, yao tongling, right? Tongling is a connection that you have with your Sifu. Or another way to say it's almost destiny. You're destined. You were destined to learn about. You're destined to learn Wing Chun. You were not destined to learn something else. I felt from a 13-year-old teenager, the reason why I kept Wai Hong's Fu Jow Pai, the last one on my list, is I was destined to learn this art. It was not by accident. I did it on purpose. Why I did it on purpose is because I had that guttural feeling that I want to learn the art of the tiger claw. I don't want to learn anything else. That's what I want to learn. And it's been like that since then. So, coming back to your question, I mean, there's so many things that we do in the Fujiao system, but they're so simple. It's just that application of tiger claw, breathing in, breathing out, and being able to focus that energy all the way to the fingertips from the entire body, and being able to pronounce that coming forward. That dynamic energy is very difficult to explain, and you gotta be doing it in order to understand. If you're a master chef and you're trying to tell me online what your crepe Suzette tastes like, it ain't going to work. You got to be there. I got to cook it in front of you, and you got to take a mouthful and go, oh, I get it. And that's the specialness, not only of Fujiao, but I think of Kung Fu in general. I was watching something on the internet the other day, and there's some MMA guy, and he gets a kick out of making fun of traditional martial art people, which some are. They call it bullshido. Yes, some are. He was making fun of a guy doing a very classical Fukian style, white crane kind of movement. And it's like, young man, you may be a good fighter. You may be an MMA champion, but you know what? If it wasn't for this guy and his art form and the people that came before him, you wouldn't exist. That's right. You would not exist. So it's to me, I have nothing against the modern sport concept of martial arts that they have now, but there's something to be said about the tried and true traditional way of teaching and the method of keeping the art alive, which I love. And obviously you guys are part of it. And it makes me sad when people don't strive to understand that without those arts, your current sport combat art would not exist. I'm sorry if I'm,
no.
Remember that, and I'm all ready for the guy to be able to fight, but that is not everything about Kung Fu. That is only one aspect. That is only one aspect. There's the physical, there's the mental, there's the philosophical, there's the spiritual. You need to embrace all of it. Otherwise, you don't have a complete picture. And I think that makes Kung Fu unique, and it makes it incredibly difficult to teach.
Sifu, going off of that, I've only got one more question for you, but before we started the show today, we were talking a little bit off camera, and that kind of gets me back to something that we had mentioned off camera. Is we live in what I call the TikTok which I guess is going out of business.
Going out of business. I can't.
Going out of business, baby. But we live in this TikTok, McDonald's, fast food, instant gratification society. Yeah. And what happens is my professional job that I do for 9 to 5, I drive a city bus. Right. And I sit about 1.5 feet over every average driver. Yeah. And I look around, and I try not to be creepy, but I look into cars and I see everybody. I might see 1 out of 40 cars of people not on their phone, not on this device. Yeah. We are redlining our nervous system. Yes. We are next to each other in public. And instead of enjoying the conversation and savoring that person sitting across from you, we're on our phone.
Correct.
Do you feel, because I've really looked at it, and you were talking about, Kung Fu, not just training the fighter, but with the spiritual and the physical and the mental, maybe it trains a human being. Maybe it trains a good functioning human being. Do you feel that these older systems, these older teaching methods actually might be the cure for this oversaturated, overproduced, fast-paced redline society that we're currently living in?
I can't agree with you more. I feel you're absolutely correct. I love the phrase that you used, that it is a cure. Because I do feel that this guy here, this thing, Jow logo, this
good logo,
is part and parcel of the diseased modern society that we live in. And we are old enough to remember when there were no cell phones, there was no internet, and when you had a beeper, you thought you were the cat's meow.
Yeah.
I remember having a cell phone, bigger than a hoagie, bigger than a burrito.
Sure. Yes.
And I thought I was so cool, right? I feel that the modern society, especially our younger generation, has been mesmerized by this apparatus, and I feel to some extent it's on purpose.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know if anybody else cares or agrees with my statement, but I think it's evil to the extent that it robs you of your mind and your spirit. It focuses you on this little electronic device, and it's created like a Pavlovian dog response where you can't seem to let go of this damn thing. You got to check it every 5 minutes. You got to see who's texting you, who called you, what messages they sent you, so on and so on. And they can't seem to fathom a world that lives without this electronic connection. And I'm a horrible at computers. I'm not a computer adept at anything electronic. And I kind of feel happy about that now since we're saying that. But I do agree with you. I think delving into the traditional martial arts systems, and particularly Kung Fu, because we are so old school, forces you to relinquish that thing. Because if you cannot occupy your mind in those two different realms, if you want to learn traditional Kung Fu, you have to have a clear mind and a clean body. And the only way to do that is to put that damn cell phone in a bag where you're not going to hear it beeping and buzzing and flittering and drawing its attention to you, and turn in and tune into yourself and your own nature and power and understanding. So in Kung Fu, we talk about sun, right? The sun. Sun, the body, and sun, the spirit. Spirit like little g God. Because you have a little g God inside you, and without getting too religious, big G God put a little g God in you on purpose. And this is why mankind is separated from the animal kingdom in that sense. Animals, my beloved tiger, react on instinct. They're hardwired. You're not hardwired. You have will. You have the willpower to make decisions, but you need a framework and structure and discipline in how to make these decisions. These martial arts systems were put together by these masters that were masters of the art of killing. Think about it. These guys, they weren't guys fooling around somewhere in a library saying, let's make up, some kind of a fighting system. They were battle-hardened veterans that came back and said, you know what? We need to create something that can encompass our system of fighting for survival while we're not on the battlefield, so our next generations know how to take care of themselves physically, mentally, spiritually. And I think these devices and the things that have sapped that from us need a cure, as you said. And I think traditional Kung Fu is that cure. But now my only reservation is that it seems that a lot of people don't want to do the hard work that you need to pass that threshold. So we're coming back to that threshold that we were talking about before. So how low do you make the bar? To let you want them to be part of your class, right? You want them to join in. You want them to partake. But how low do you make the bar before you compromise your integrity?
Yep.
And that's the problem that I have on a daily basis. Because I'm walking around the room and I'm seeing everybody in the horse stands like, get lower, sit down, kick you in the leg, scream at you. And they think, wow, Sifu's crazy. I'm not crazy. I demand this excellence for you, not for me. I can do it. I want you to learn you. I want you to unplug at least for 2 hours from that thing that is siphoning off your psychic and physical energy and not letting you tap into your sun and your hei, and your sun yi, sun hei. You got to tap into all of that because that's the gift that you were given by Big G God or by Mother Nature, whatever you want to claim it is. And if you don't, you're losing yourself. You're not finding yourself. And I think these traditional systems are a great vehicle in finding ourselves and making ourselves better human beings, as you said. Now, the problem is, how are the three of us going to get together to make this happen? And I really want to find a way, like the interview, is going to be done and all, but I want to continue and talk with the two of you young men and see how are we going to reach the greater society and tell them that here in front of you, I have a treasure right here and I'm willing to share it with you to make your life better, not to better my life. My life will be better if I know that I made somebody else better. And as a Sifu now, that's where I am. Because before I was all about the training, becoming strong, becoming fierce, being a fighter, learning this, learning that. And now I'm reaching an age where I'm like, you know what? I need to pass this on. I need to guarantee that the next generation gets what I got, what I received from my teacher and his teacher and so on. And, while I'm still able, I mean, God bless, I have more time, but time is of the essence. And this is what I tell my students all the time. You need to make, a sense of urgency in your training. You can't wait 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And then they say to me, it's like, Sifu, when do you take a day off? So I'm not physically teaching on Sunday, but I'll tell you the truth. I'm sitting there and I'm practicing. If I'm not mentally meditating on my practice, I'm physically doing it 24/7. And it's kept me healthy, knock on wood. It's kept me young. I can still move. I can jump. I can kick. I can roll. I can do stuff that guys my age can't do. I was watching something somewhere the other day where somebody said, 60 years old and, you can't do this and you can't do that. I'm like, well, no, I can. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can do everything that I did 30 years ago. And some of them I can do it even better. So Kung Fu for us is the way. Other people have other ways, So when I talk to my students, I say, look, I'm going to teach you a little Buddhism. I'm going to teach you a little Taoism. The Buddhist part is you got to give everything up. You got to become nothing in order to get it. The Taoist way is you got to flow. You got to go with the way. You got to learn the way. The form is trying to teach you the way of how to do it. Don't get involved. Put yourself on the side. Be Buddhist so you can be Taoist. So you get the both of both worlds. And then you have to embrace the Confucian aspect of respect and honor and the righteousness. That yi, we call it yi, right? Zhong, yan, yi, yong. Zhong, you have to be loyal. Yan, you have to be benevolent, compassionate. Yi, you have to know the right thing to do and do it, that righteousness. And yong, you have to be brave. Brave in the sense, not that you want to be a brave fighter, but brave in the face of your own fears. Stand up to your own fears. Overcome your fears. Those precepts, that's what I try to teach. So there's a lot of philosophy involved. And see, that's the cure. Then you don't have to go back to that cell phone, to your computer, to all the stuff. Those are amazing tools that should be used to make your life better, not to imprison you.
Yeah.
And that can also be said about our Kung Fu forms. I can remember Grandmaster vehemently telling me in a conversation with some other people, the forms are there to enlighten you, not imprison you. And a lot of people practice their form as like a self-imposed imprisonment.
Yeah.
So you guys take your techniques and you modify them and you make them work accordingly to the situation. And that comes back to what I was saying about Kung Fu in a minute, about form and function. Don't look at form. Form is not, you become so dogmatic about your form that you can't seem to change it because of the circumstances. Then your Kung Fu doesn't work. That's not the Kung Fu not working. That's you not being able to make it work. Yeah. You need to be able to change it. So we're talking about 8 palm changes. I mean, changes. The key word is change.
Yeah.
You need to change. Your Wing Chun will change. Your Xingyi will change. My Fujiao will change. So, well, it doesn't look like what you showed me in the form. Of course not. That's a format. That's
awesome.
That's a Google map, my friend. And you're telling me that the Google map, that your GPS that you follow, and then when you look at real life is going to look the same? Of course not. You're supposed to straddle that. You're supposed to make that thing happen. That is the challenge of the master and the student, to realize this and not become fanatical and dogmatic. And we're not saying throw it away because it's the format, but you need to make that thing come alive. So if your martial art looks slightly different than the other guy, it's okay. Because we're not all the same. We're different people. We see things differently. I'm hearing myself talk now, but you may hear me differently, and that's okay because it resonates with you in a special way. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're all unique. And when we all come together in that right way, we make things amazing. And then that's what I really want to do with my Kung Fu. And that's what I really want to do with you guys. I think we should make our own project.
All right. We'll kick the can around. Let's kick the can around. You betcha.
How to save Kung Fu for the future, because you don't know. You don't know what we lost in the last several generations, and you don't want to lose that in the next few generations. I have that I'm hurrying up to impart, like we were having a lion dance practice session before I got online with you. And I have so many things to teach my students about the traditional art of Southern lion dance. Just that alone. aspect alone, never mind about playing the sword or playing the spear or doing your fujao or whatever. I don't know how to do this. You got to kind of like live with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming back to your original statement about it being the cure, I definitely think it's some good medicine, and good medicine, especially if you've taken Chinese medicine, is better.
Yeah.
Not the cherry cough syrup that mommy gave you when you were 9 years old. It's bitter. It's bitter, but it's cleansing. And then when you understand the bitterness, then comes the sweetness. And that's what real Kung Fu training is about. So just for, to clarify. So Fujiao training is very bitter in the beginning, but in the end, it becomes sweet. And you enjoy the practice, even though it's tough, but it's a different kind of tough. It's a different kind of tough. And you got to go through that. And again, as we said before, it's a life art. It's not for 6 months. It's for a lifetime.
Right.
Yep.
100%. Sifu, thank you so much. First off, I would love to invite you back on the show down the road. I think we have so much more to talk about. And two, thank you for your time. Thank you for your preservations of these arts and the effort that you're putting forward. We are going to have your bio when the episode comes out. We'll put out your bio. We'll put out a link to Kung Fu in a minute. We'll put out a link to your school. And is there any last thoughts, maybe an upcoming project that you're working on? You mentioned the second Wooden Dummy book. Is there any other thoughts or projects to leave the audience with today?
I am working on a bunch of projects. I actually was helping out some writer friends of mine that wrote a mystery novel. It's called The Murder of Mr. Ma.
Oh, cool.
Written by John Nee and S.J. Rosen. John was a top publisher for for Marvel Comics and DC Comics. And S.J. is a well-known mystery writer. And I supplied all the Kung Fu fighting scenes. It's basically based on Judge D.
Awesome. I love Judge D.
Right. But it's in a modern setting. And we're on our second book. Second book's going to be published coming out in April. And I'm working on the third book. And we're crossing our fingers, and maybe it'll become somewhat of a series on Netflix or a movie. So we're trying to do that. I'm trying to keep the Kung Fu real. No wire tricks. Nice. Everything is nitty gritty. There's a lot of Fujiao in the book.
Awesome.
Weapons and so on. So we're on the third novel now. So that's one project. There's 3 books in the works. One is The Wooden Man. The other one is The Iron Palm. There's another second level of essential Fujiao. That's what I'm calling it at the moment. Butterfly Knives, Straight Sword, all these books. Oh my God. And then I got to get back on the video trail. So we're going to unveil some Wooden Man learning videos that could be found on Patreon, and Kung Fu in a Minute. We're being worked on. So, but I only have like 2 or 3 people working with me. So as you guys know, there's no giant team. Everybody thinks there's a giant team.
Right.
It's me and 1 or 2 other people, and that's it. So it's like, do this, do that, run over here, do this, run over here, do that. So you can imagine the day is action packed from beginning to end, on top of teaching classes.
Right.
But I want to thank you guys for your platform and what you're doing for Kung Fu, because it's a long time coming. And I want to wish you all the luck, and I want to be part of it and help you in any way that I can. And most definitely, I think today's talk is just opening the door. We can talk about so many different aspects of Kung Fu. And if you guys ever feel that you want to talk of something super specific, I'm ready. And as I had said to Sifu Kevin when he came to do the videos, I'm willing to help him too. I want to help any Kung Fu teacher that is in love with what you're doing and wants to preserve and promote the art that we care so much about, regardless of system and style.
Beautiful.
And make it further for the future, and and let everybody know that, we're here and ready and willing to help. And as I said, all these other martial arts, you got to remember who was the granddaddy, where you come from. Okay, where you come from. It's us. It's us. And you got to give Kung Fu its due. You got to give Kung Fu its due. So I appreciate you gentlemen taking so much time to speak with me and be online. And I'm ready, willing, and able to help.
Fantastic.
We look forward to releasing this. It'll probably be next month in a 2-part segment. We'll do a part 1 and a part 2. And then the following weeks, we'll release it on YouTube as well. I'll give you all the links. I'm going to tag you. We'll put you up on Instagram and every other social platform. And thank you again, Sifu. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been fantastic.
And we look forward to harassing you in the future, my friend.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So I want to wish you a happy Chinese New Year.
Coming up
in a couple of weeks, and we'll look forward to doing more together.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Have a blessed day, Sifu.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.